This is a Play Your Way network presentation. Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, three champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derreck will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, it's on once again, Patron once again. Yeah, it is the nefarious, the resident podcast DJ VK, helping you understand how to do your podcast and lifestyle
The player way.
Yeah, and I am back with my co-captains, Nate.
That's me.
And Derreck.
That's right, lifestyles of the corrupting the system on Instagram. Kids today don't know about Robin Leach. Kids today don't know about Robin Leach.
I gotta give it up to you, man. I didn't think it was possible to top what I was doing when I was doing the little Peter Griffin. But you topped it with the lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
We wish you caviar dreams and champagne wishes.
Kids today don't know about that.
That's right.
That sounded like those BBC. And this is Aiken Wickery with BBC One.
Yeah, it was like basically you got it, homie. You see now if you take two, because you were raised overseas. Do you not remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
No, I never heard.
He was living it, man.
Dude, man, yeah, he's international. He's pimping all over the world.
Mr. Worldwide.
Exactly, Mr. 305 worldwide. Exactly. But now Robin Leach was this guy who back in the 80s, it was just about cocaine was a hell of a drug back then, man. It was all about opulence, having a fresh amount of cocaine. Yeah, yes. Baking soda up your nose. It's what it was all about, man.
Booger sugar. White girl.
White girl.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good episode today.
Lines, pure as the driven snow, thin through my mind. That's what it was. And so Robin Leach was this old, BBC dude who would just come on and talk about, the lifestyles of rich people and talk about, we're inside of the $13 million home of Whitney and Bobby Brown. See what they have. Yes. They have a toilet made of platinum. He would just go through all of their stuff. It was like Cribs before Cribs. Literally, that's what it was.
That was perfect. And this ran from 86 to the mid 90s. I want to say 95. Almost, I want to say maybe about 10 years, but yeah, it was a cool thing to go from
the late 80s,
to
early
the
90s.
It was obviously. And why you tuck your shirt in?
Shout out to Darius. Doing unnecessary tuck-ins.
The player way.
Wanted to show off that Gucci belt.
Man, that was one of my favorite shows to watch.
Yes, man.
That was a good show, man. VH1 used to have the good shows.
Before we go any further, we are in a really good mood, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, with all due respect. I'm your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you understand how to curate your life in media.
The player way.
And I introduce my co-captains, and if you don't already know, we are a weekly blitzcast that we help you understand what is the best and brightest news media to curate, so that when you get off your 30 to 40 to 50 to 60, 70 hour plus week, you can get home and get right down to business. Killing it.
The player way.
Exactly. Wow, wow, wow.
Boom, boom.
Exactly. So, what we've been going through, we're heading up. We are, I guess we're now 8 episodes, because this one wouldn't count. We're technically 8 episodes, I guess, from our 50th episode. Is that what's going down?
Yep. This is episode 42.
Man's not hot.
Exactly.
So I'm excited. So what we're doing in preparation for that is we're doing top 5 lists. Last week, if you haven't listened to it or if you have not been on our Instagram at Playerway Podcast, that Playerway Podcast Instagram really is all 3 of our Instagram, but it's the professional side of ours. Derreck has an Instagram at Corrupting the System where you can see his amazing styling, songs of the day, and his amazing strumming skills. His strums trillescent, if you may.
That's that. Cash that one in.
Exactly.
Cash that one in.
Exactly.
Strum trillescent.
Yeah, you got to cash it in.
Yes.
Got a strum trillescent guitar. I'm cashing out. Exactly. So we're doing that. And then Nate, of course, does all of the amazing logos. So I don't personally have a personal Instagram, so I am like the full-time curator of that. But all 3 of our faces you can see on that Instagram. Again, that's at Playerway Podcast. That is the player way to keep up with everything we're doing in between and before the next podcast. So if you want to know what we got going on there, just go on Instagram at the Playway Podcast so you can curate your Instagram time.
The Player Way.
And that's what we're going to do. So before we get to our top 5 list this week, it's going to be our top 5 fantasy films of all time. Let's go around the circle and play a little game of Limp Biscuit. How was your weeks, guys?
I had a pretty good week.
Exactly,
had a pretty good week. As you know, I'm late to the table on this one, but I did send you, I want to say, a text either late Wednesday, early Thursday morning of me finally deciding to delve into Silicon Valley. And
nice. We did talk about that.
I am halfway through season 3, so put that in perspective. How many episodes I've watched from early Thursday morning until early today morning.
Starting with the beginning of the series, like season 1.
Yeah, season
Dude,
1.
The finale to season 1
man.
with the basically what is a 15-minute dick joke.
Yep.
Yes,
you know, that some of the best written joke. One of the best written jokes I have ever honestly heard or witnessed.
The show is
TV.
genius. Like, I mean, it's genius. I'm fortunate that I've seen enough clips and heard enough. Like, I didn't really know much about it until I heard a really great audio clip. It's the one where he's talking to the new CEO, and he gives this long line of all the old things that he would like. And I've heard that clip, and I'm like, man, it's hilarious, and that. And so I finally, like I said, got to the dinner table late on this one, but I'm loving it. It's hilarious. It's great. It's sharp on the technical know-how. Like, I have no problem admitting how much of a layman I am on this stuff, but it's still entertaining.
Is that what you are? A layman?
That is what I am when it comes to seeing these guys, run them algorithms. But it's great just to, it's a great show to watch, man. It's hilarious. Like,
it is. It's for me, it's a great show hole. It's like when I don't have anything else to watch, I can always go back to that. I use this term a lot. It's evergreen. Like, you don't have to watch it right now. There's nothing like it's same thing with Ballers with Dwayne Johnson. That's another great show that you can go back to, and you're for sure gonna have something decent to watch. Yeah. But it's not necessarily pressing.
And that's exactly how I came around this, because I wrapped up the Grand Tour season 2. They just wrapped up last week. So I was like, what am I going to do? And which another great season from those 3 guys. Like they did a crazy little
take over.
Until we take over. Until we take over. They got to fly to Africa and did a segment there. So Wakanda forever. Boom, boom. And but yeah, that's what led me right to Silicon Valley. So my show hole was filled with this greatness and amazing mutton chops, if I do say so myself.
That's awesome. And a little exclusive we got for you.
The Player Way.
Exclusive.
If you like that kind of subject matter, a really good pivot show to go into is AMC's Halt and Catch Fire. It's a lot more serious in tone, so it's a good palate cleanser, but it still deals with the same kind of subject matter, but back in the Steve Jobs days. So it goes all the way back, and it actually takes place in Dallas, Texas. So it also will give you a little... Yeah, so it gives you a little bit of, I know that building. I know where they filmed that, and a little bit here and there. So, yeah. So
pretty much what you get in every movie and every TV show out there right now being in Atlanta.
Dude, Rachel and I have a little game called Let's Guess. Whoever guesses where if the film is in Atlanta first, wins. And that's a great, and that's actually a great transition. We'll come back to Nate in a second. But this past weekend, I did not see the film that I swore to see. Not because I didn't want to see it, but literally because I got outvoted by my wife. And so we ended up seeing date night. Or no, not date night, game night. And I was literally in the middle of, I was Instagramming at the very beginning of the movie in the theater, and Rachel was like, can you put the phone away? I'm like, I don't want to see this film. And I had to put it away. I was actually incredibly surprised. It was filmed here in Atlanta, so I ended up winning the game. I was like, nice. That's filmed in Atlanta. I already know. But they have these really good tilt shift. It's a visual masterpiece. And I know that term can be overused these days, but much in the way that Jumanji was a shocker of a good film. Every person I know of who watches that film, Jumanji, all had the same reaction. I didn't expect it to be that good. That actually was really good. And you're watching, you're like, oh my goodness, I almost missed out on this adventure. And you kind of, but game night, dude, it's the same.
And it's one of those ones low expectation, but not only exceeds low it's good anyway. Even if I had high expectations, Jumanji's would have exceeded it. So you're saying game night is on par?
Night.
What's better between the two? I'm gonna right now.
I'd actually prefer to see game night. Game night's that good.
That's not just recent,
bro.
That's not just recent
y'all
dripping.
Y'all both have seen Breaking Bad. So the younger kid who is kind of like an idiot in the show that takes Jesse's place,
Todd.
Yes, Todd. He also was in Friday Night Lights, if you don't know, on NBC when that was a series. Mm-hmm. He's had a slow.
He's like the host, career. Right?
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah. He's not the host, but he's like. He's like a next.
Did he sniff your panties?
Door neighbor. He's a next door neighbor, and he's very, very creepy. And he does so well at the awkward parts. The movie is so awkward every time he's on, and you are in the theater like this.
Oh, I love those cringeworthy.
It is that
kind of he was in the first episode of Black Mirror season 4, and you had those awkward moments.
He's even more cringy than that.
Oh,
he's even more cringy than that. It is okay. I love that you mentioned Black Mirror season, this episode 1 of the newest season, because he plays a character that is so similar to that, but but he takes it to the next level. This, at least in the Black Mirror episode, he could hide it in normal people. Yeah, this guy is a police officer and he cannot hide it. His wife left him because he's a certain way, and he was invited to game nights previously, but they uninvited him because he lost out on the friend's divorce. And and so right. He's always
just that premise for a character is enough.
Even down to petting a Pomeranian. It's amazing. Derek, you got to see this. If you go to see game night this weekend as a palate cleanser after Wakanda Forever, you are doing your film choices
the player way.
And speaking of the player way, if you go to playyourwaynetwork.com or playlifeyourway.com, you can see an article from Jay Daniel, one of our new writers. He actually did a comparison editorial on hit and misses this past weekend. He actually saw that game night, and he also saw Red Sparrow, and he does a compare and contrast on, even though Red Sparrow did a lot better in box office, why game night is a better buy for your money if you're going to the movies this upcoming weekend. So there you go. I still plan on seeing Death Wish. I am holding it to it. There's been several things standing in my way. I do know that IGN gave it a terrible grade. I heard that it is a terrible film. I heard that it is not at all like the original Charles Bronson that I kept talking about on the podcast. It's actually more of a comedy, which is what makes it so bad, because in this climate these days, it's a situation where you're supposed to not make light of killing people in mass murdering with guns and stuff, but they do it in this film, and that makes me want to see it even more. Hashtag
perhaps a Playerway Science 3000 next week.
Hey, we all right, we might have to do a little bit of something like that.
Bitch, what?
What he said was...
How about this?
What he
Death
said
Wish
was...
on me next week.
Hey, you don't have to do it on you because I got Movie Pass, my brother. And on top of that, we might be able to let you log into Rachel's Movie Pass. You can save that money.
Oh, where
exactly.
go that, babe?
Exactly. So that if you didn't hear that, Derreck, our resident podcast urban cowboy, is going to be here in Atlanta, Georgia, not in Decatur where it's greater, but in Gwinnett because we're kind of cool too. He's going to be here. We're going to do a lot of filming, do some captain's challenges. We are going to be doing the Buffalo Wild Wings Blazing. No, we're going to do Buffalo Wild Wings, the Blazing Wing Challenge inside of Buffalo Wild Wings. So you can look forward to seeing that on the Captain's Challenge. People love seeing the wings. And before we get to Nate's weekend, as he mentioned, yes, I did another Captain's Challenge last Friday for Flame on Fridays. You can catch that on Instagram. You can also find it on YouTube, or you can find it at playlifeyourway.com, where you can see me put my throat and anus through an excruciating pain and laugh at it. So
pause. Phrasing. Go. So much.
Listen, I earned the ability to say that, dude. It's all kinds of toilet paper action over here.
I know.
So,
pegging
Nate,
usually has that effect.
Nate, what's up, bro? How we living out there?
Looking pretty good.
I was hoping he was gonna pivot in there. Well, I had a
I'll
shitty
tell you
weekend.
what. Let me run down my week. Friday night, I went out downtown.
Shitty weekend and ran out of toilet paper. Good loon.
I didn't even contemplate watching any movies at the theater. Actually, about game night, I think those directors have been tapped to direct Flashpoint Paradox, and it might be official.
Dude,
I
the visuals,
really
if you see this film, you get a taste for what they would be able to do with Flash, and
They also made Vacation, so let's not get too crazy.
They also made what?
Vacation.
Oh, National Lampoon's the remake?
Yeah. But they did write Homecoming, too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame them for that. I mean, if National Lampoon's, that franchise comes at you and says, hey, we want to remake this film, you can't really say no to that. You can't remake Chevy Chase. I mean, Chevy Chase did those films to the max, dude. To try to remake them is a exercise in trying to remake Death Wish. There, I said it, finally. Anyway, go ahead.
I did, there was some new on Netflix that came out. It was a docuseries called Flint Town, which is actually really good. I ended up binging the entire thing. It's 8 episodes. Each one's about 45 minutes long. Follows the Flint PD for 2 years, starting from kind of after the water crisis that they had. That's still ongoing. I think as of now, these people still don't have clean water, which is kind of terrible, but it is really interesting. That's about it. You guys check it out if you want to. It's sort of depressing too.
That's what's up, bro. I'm really glad that you transitioned us into talking about Netflix. So we're gonna have a short but brief, short and brief, I guess you would say, rundown of
they've been stepping up
a Netflix lately. Blitzcast.
The Player Way.
So what we're going to do is give you a little exclusive.
The Player Way.
Exclusive. Because there was a lot of new things that came on Netflix this past week. I actually wanted to see Flint, but I'm glad that you caught that one. Rachel got really hooked in on the show called Girls Incarcerated. It's a docuseries as well about like girls that are in juvenile hall, and the stories as to why they were there. And the reason why it captivated me is like I was like taking a nap because I went out of town and worked on Saturday, and I came home and I like lay down and took a nap on the couch, and Rachel was playing this in the background, and the vivid dreams I had about like the stuff that these girls went through and the amount of abuse that they had, it woke me out of my sleep. I'm like, did I not? She was like, you got to watch the show. I said, I actually think you messed my dreams up watching this show. Like, is it? She's like, no. Like, let me tell you about this one girl. I said, no. Let me tell you about this one girl. I was like dead sleep, by the way, snoring and everything, and I still heard it. I was like, did not? Was this girl, was trying to give her parents that she was separated from a second chance? She went over her mom's house, and her mom injected her intentionally with heroin and got her hooked on heroin so bad she almost killed her. Yes, that actually happened. What? it blew my mind. Like, it is very sad, but it's eye-opening to how different when guys as young guys are locked up versus how girls are. You get a little watching it, but yeah, a docuseries.
I mean, at least she wasn't like smoking cigarettes in front of her, because no one ever died from secondhand heroin.
Ooh.
At least heroin will make you feel euphoric.
Right? Oh, poor me.
You guys are. Woo, you guys are.
I mean, who do you want your daughter getting her heroin from?
Most painkillers prescribed by doctors are heroin.
Man.
I mean, who do you want giving your daughter heroin? The guy on the street
or the mom? I take it from the mom any day, yeah.
All right. So, moving on along with our Blitzcast, there was another show called Ugly Delicious. If you're a foodie out there.
Oh, I watched that too. Yeah, that was really good.
All right, I'm going to tell you. I want to see what you guys think. But after the first couple episodes, I was really ready for the Chinese guy to get punched in the face, because I kind of felt he was a little pretentious. I was like, it wasn't until the fried chicken episode that I started to be online with him a little bit, because he kind of got humbled after that episode. Everything before that, he was like, hey, I'm at a taco truck. This sounds like it tastes like it's from China. What? It's a taco. Like, we're supposed to be in Mexico talking about the derivative of Mexican cuisine, and you want to tie it back to Aziz Ansari in Japan and China. It's like every 5 seconds he was talking about how something tastes like it was from China. I was like, okay, not everything comes from China, brother. Like, god damn. Like, come on, man. But he was a little pretentious. Like, did you see the episode, the part where he was delivering for Domino's?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I
watched the whole thing.
Pizza. I'm not delivering another fucking pizza. I was like, oh my god, like, dude, you're getting paid so much more money than this guy, and you said it right in front of him. I'm not delivering another fucking pizza. Meanwhile, this guy has to go back to work and do that for the rest of the shift.
And deal with it.
And deal with it. Man, because that guy loved his job so much.
Laugh at him.
Actually, I think Domino's was actually one of the superior pizzas in delivery. Crapped all over his job.
They also had the Noid.
Yeah, they did. I'm not a big. I don't know. I had a bad experience with Aziz Ansari in real life, so I have a weird thing about, like, whenever I see him on, I want to punch him in the face every time I see him.
Come on, let's hear it. Come on, don't tease us with that. Come on,
you know those, like, I get it when you're a star and you see people all day long. I get it. Nate, you and I, we traveled for a living, so we understand what it's like to not want to see people and talk to people and just want to get home. But damn, man, like, if somebody walks up to you, hey, man, I respect what you're doing, nice to meet you, and he, like, interrupts you mid-sentence, I don't want to talk to you right now. It's like, all right. Well,
I will mess you up, Aziz. Do you see how big I am? Do you see how big I am? I will bust you in the face, dude, and what are you going to do? What are you going to do, sue me? Here's some old socks, man. Here's another right hook.
Come on, brother. Like, damn. Come on, man. I get it.
Keep in mind, y'all, this is coming from a guy who also
I get
saw
it to a
Jadakiss
point, but
on a plane and refused his autograph when Jadakiss offered it to him.
Yeah, I was the only person on the plane that recognized it was Jadakiss.
The only
y'all don't remember
how many people are on a commercial plane, y'all, and he's the only one.
Bro, and I'm gonna make it worse. Look. I was on a flight to Carnegie Hall in New York City with a Airbus full of music students between the ages of 18 and 25, and I was the only person. Plenty of black people from the Atlanta area, and I'm the only black person. I'm the only person on the plane that recognized who he was. He was so happy. That happened with and to contrast that, when I met Dennis Hoskins, who is Mr. Belding, when I met him in real life, he was like wanting to hang out with, like, literally at LAX. Nate, you know that McDonald's at LAX in the Delta terminal?
Actually, Delta's gone through. They switched.
Oh, they renovated
from 5 to 2.
Well, you know, they used to have, like, the California Pizza Kitchen, and they had the duty free thing, and then right across from there they had the McDonald's. You may not remember the McDonald's.
Delta Terminal had lemonade. It had this rock and roll restaurant. It had a coffee bean.
Exactly. Maybe it was the AirTran. Maybe it was
no McDonald's.
So anyway, that was the thing with that. It was just like, I had met many stars before, even Jim Ross. Jim Ross, rented like a government mule. I mean, these are people who get fans swarming all the time. And I mean, even the girl who played the weird girl from Harry Potter, the girl with the white hair, Mr. Fu from what's his face from what's the EDM
the rapper
pop group Party Rockin' in the House Tonight.
LMFAO.
Yeah, LMFAO. Yeah. Every one of these people I'm mentioning, I got lists and lists and lists because I also used to work with rappers and not gonna name drop. But it was just Aziz Ansari had the worst bedside manner about it. It was just he just really didn't want to be bothered at all, and he was very vocal about it.
There's
where
lots
he
of
was
stories
trying
out
to
there
embarrass me
about his terrible bedside manner.
Exactly.
Lots of stories out there about his bad bedside manner.
I have a thing, people that.
Woo! You're on fire.
People
on all
that choose to people that choose to make a living off of something where
I get a little credit.
End goal is to be successful and famous, and with fame comes people coming up to you in your everyday life. Yes. It takes a certain type of person that wants to be famous. If you don't want that to happen, don't become famous. Don't choose a trade or a craft where your ultimate goal is to be famous and successful.
And you never know.
You have
and
to
you
have
never
the
know
other
who's talking to you.
side of it.
And you never know who's talking to you. Right now we only have like 2 fans. But who knows? We might have 2,000 or 20,000 one day, and they will hear this episode.
And you never know. You might run into one of them that's like, oh, I'm the CEO of this, this, and this, but you wouldn't recognize him, and he is the CEO, and I'd like to this. Especially, this may be because I've been watching a lot of Silicon Valley, but these guys who are billionaires that look like some Joe you'd rub shoulders with on the street, that's really how it is out there. And you just never know. Like, Aziz had no earthly idea who you were. He doesn't know that, his name is blasted now. You know what I'm saying? And what's he going to do? Beat me up? Huh? Exactly. What are you going to do on Aziz?
Anyway, I didn't want to turn
you know what my ass?
Involve that. Speaking of stars that we don't quite remember, moment of silence. Nate hasn't done one of those in a long time. Speaking of taglines that Nate forgot, moment of silence for Mark Salling. I don't know if you guys remember, but he's the guy from Glee who was accused of children porn or something like that, and then he ended up dying just randomly, and they recently announced that it was self-asphyxiation by suicide, so he intentionally killed himself. Now, why am I mentioning this on the podcast? Derek, did you know?
I know why.
Why? Go ahead.
We went to school with this guy.
I don't even remember
1 year before us.
I don't remember him.
Check your yearbook.
Yeah, he's
I
in
bet
there.
you will.
Yeah, well,
he's definitely in there.
Ross and I won't mention his last name, but shout out to Ross. He's up there in Maine right now, but we were talking about it right before the podcast, and I was like, is it just me or do I not remember this guy? And he's like, yes, and like they mentioned, which I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called St. Vincent, but Annie Clark is St. Vincent, which we went to school with Annie as well, and she was in the 2001 class as well. And so they said in like his Wikipedia and on like some E-News report that he was friends or classmates with Annie Clark, which I think that's loose because we had 800 kids like in our graduating class. So it's like, that's a loose, but apparently he was also in the wrestling team and he knew people on the choir. It's like, these are circles I was in. I'm like, I don't remember. Like, it makes me want to call Jimmy Soup and some of these other people like, do y'all remember this dude?
Jimmy Sumpum
Exactly, man. The true Super Saiyan. That's the dude that should play Goku in like a movie in real life. Yeah. So anyway, so it was weird. I thought that was really weird that all this time I knew he went to Lake Hollins, but I didn't know he graduated. Like
his senior picture. I'm looking at it right now. He's got the butt cut and the blonde highlights. The blonde highlights, man.
That's why. I bet if I saw him, I'd remember him.
Just do a quick Google right now.
I'll do it during our next section because I don't want to hold anything up. Man, that's kind of crazy. So anyway, that's what's going on. So rip Mark Salling.
Yep.
Moment of silence.
Yes.
Lake Hollins.
Stay hard, Mark.
Go Wildcats. All right. So all right. Transitioning out of that. Anything else for the good order before we move on to our top 5 lists of best fantasy films of all time?
Exclusive. The Player Way.
Exclusive. I'll take that as let's get it going. Oh, and did you send me a link? He sent me a link. Yes. Hold on.
Just for you to see.
He sent me a link just so I could see, and I bet I'll remember this dude as soon as
the second you see the first picture, you're going to be like,
Oh, man. I think I do know this dude.
The thing is, all right,
goodness.
y'all, his reaction.
Oh, my goodness. And then, like, the people that are on, he looks so different as an adult.
Yes.
The glow-up was real with this dude. Yeah, I bet I did know this dude. He looks really familiar. Because, I was in I'm not going to even talk about what crowd I hung out with when I was, you know who I hung out with. Wells Fargo wagon. Coming right on down. Doing the shapoopy. Anyway, moving on. Best fantasy films of all time, top 5. Last time we started with Nate first. We're going to do Derreck first this go around. Ground rules. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page because I got a little flack before we started recording. Are we okay with allowing comic book films as long as they fit the fantasy profile?
As long as they fit, because last week on the podcast we said you clarified the difference between science fiction and fantasies. Is science fiction is based in science, fantasy is based in magic. Fantasy is a broad genre.
Yes, fantasy has, in order for it to be a proper fantasy, has to fit 2 criteria. It either has, at least for the Playway podcast, it either has to have a soft or hard magic system that you can actually talk about, that you can kind of explain how magic works in that universe. So the MCU does qualify because of the Infinity Stones. That qualifies it. Okay. Second, but the Dark Knight Rises, none of the Dark Knight trilogy would be allowed in that. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Second criteria is there's got to be some sort, or if it doesn't have a hard or soft magic system that's overt, there at least has. And shout out to Ian Townsend, Wolf, from the Play Your Way network. He's the one who helped me understand this a little bit more. There has to be some sort of coming of age heroic journey. So, for example, if you have like a Conan, there's not a lot of stuff in Conan that's magic in some versions of that, but it still fits the fantasy genre because it's got that swashbuckling swords. Same thing. You might even be able to make Pirates of the Caribbean work in fantasy as well for that same. Well, actually, because there's magic there too, but it's not super explored. So anyway, that gives it to you. I got a feeling one of those things I just talked about is going to be on Derreck's list, but we'll find out now.
We'll find out
on
The Player Way
podcast. Here we go. Top 5 fantasy films. Derreck, take it away. Number 5.
Top 5 fantasy. Before I go into my number 5, I have to give an honorable mention, okay? I just have to. I have a couple honorable mentions on here.
Okay.
And one of them is Willow is an honorable mention for me. And that takes me way back.
I'm going to give you that one.
And also this other one is an honorable mention, and it's only for me, because this list is Derek Lewis's list of the Corrupting the System list, and is my opinions over my own. Is also an honorable mention for The Wizard of Oz.
I'll give you that. That's definitely fantasy. For sure. I'll give you
Moving
that.
on, my personal number 5.
I appreciate you not putting it in the top 5, though.
And that's exactly why I got an honorable mention. Because I'm like, come on, everybody and their dog gonna put, come on.
Yeah, you got to talk about it.
Fuck out of here with all that. Fuck out of here with all that. You heard me? Number 5. This takes me back to my days in which I saw one of the most beautiful drawn women ever. And a wonderful story. Woo! And it starts with Who Framed Roger Rabbit? For my number 5 fantasy film. Great movie. Still holds up today with the comedy. Because it's got that classic Looney Tunes humor, and it's a fantasy movie all around, definitely. And like I said, it's a great movie. 30 years this year that it's been since it came out. And
always leave it to Derreck to think outside the box, man. Awesome, dude.
Just wait. Just you wait. So yeah, that was my number 5.
Nate, number 5.
I had one honorable mention too. It was Jumanji, the very first one. Back in.
I'll give you that. Good job.
I couldn't remember anybody who didn't like that movie, and if you didn't, then go fuck yourself.
Nice.
My actual number 5 was this movie called Stardust. It came out, I want to say 10 years ago. Made me a fan of Matthew Vaughn. Starred a young Daredevil, Claire Danes, Michelle Pfeiffer chewing up the scenery as an evil witch. Robert De Niro as a Skyboat Captain.
Yes. Look at y'all. Thinking
did he have a patch? Did he have a patch, or did I make? I don't know. I can't remember.
It's just a fun movie. I still watch it every now and then. I think it's on Netflix, but yeah, no, I've always enjoyed it.
Nice. All right. Well, my honorable mention. My honorable mention is going to be a little film called Crossroads, starring Ralph Macchio. It's about a man.
Shut up right now.
That is my.
I watched that climactic scene at least once, almost a week.
With Steve Vai playing guitar, baby. Woo! I love that.
Yes.
I'm telling you, if you ever want to know what The Devil Went Down to Georgia looks like as a film, go. I was going to say go rent because I'm so old. But go and acquire Crossroads. I guess you technically rent for like 24 hours these days. But yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that Crossroads is a good one. I have two more. The Princess Bride. That's just, I mean, you got to mention The Princess Bride. Yeah. And then The Neverending Story. So those are my three honorable mentions. But they ain't none of them hitting the tapping, though. As my grandma
and Nate, Stardust is on Netflix, just so you know, if you want to have, if you want to go ahead and dive down that road.
My number 5 film is a film that when I saw it in theaters, it legitimately made me question whether or not Star Wars Episode 4 was the best beginning of a film franchise. And I got all of those warm fuzzies that I saw that type of film for the first time, and it is Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. So Guardians of the Galaxy,
okay.
Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy is the film that broke it made the MCU truly a fantasy realm when they put that film in there. I mean, it got
busted
all of
the barrier.
Dude,
really.
It was. I remember watching that film. I had the same feeling that I had when I saw Super 8 for the first time. I was like, okay, but it didn't have the.
I didn't even realize. I didn't realize the MCU had so many thick parameters until I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, oh wow, they can do this. They can do this too. I didn't even
without Guardians of the Galaxy. Dare I say, without Guardians of the Galaxy, we would probably be sick of the MCU. They wouldn't be able to go where they are going now without that film. It gave it new life. So yeah, I give it to them.
Nice, that's solid.
All right, Derek, number
solid
4.
Number 5. And number 4.
What you got for poke chop?
Hey, doing it like a girl, hop the top. Number 4, one of my favorite movies, and this movie, I will argue, and you could fight me on this, that it still even holds up. And if you're going to notice a theme for me, this is my own personal fantastical journey into these type of movies. And I read this book as a young child. I enjoyed this movie. Jim Henson had one of his best puppeteering movie forms ever with this.
Okay.
And this takes me down the role of The Dark Crystal. A great movie. Great
you know what,
fantasy movie.
An equally good one would have been Witches. That would have been good too. Witches was good too.
Dark Crystal was great. I mean, the puppeteering in this movie, even watching it now, I'm just amazed. I was like, the scale of this, the costumes, the wardrobes, and the story's good. Even now, my 5-year-old twins are still entertained by this type of movie. And in this day and age where you can look at a CGI image of a face and wow, that's really Robert Downey Jr., but it's not Robert Downey Jr. Mm-hmm. And you can still have the youth of our future be entertained by puppets at that level. That I got to give them credit, man. That's a great movie. I really enjoyed that one. Very close to home personally for me, and I feel it's one of the greatest fantasy movies out there.
All right, Nate, bring it on.
My number 4 was a movie. It's actually quite old now. It's 16 years old. A Reign of Fire, starring Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
those two battling dragons, a world that has been annihilated by dragons.
I forgot about that movie
honestly,
until right now.
I have yet to see Matthew McConaughey play this level of badass that he was in this movie.
Wow. You went there.
And so what? There's a touching scene of Christian Bale acting out Star Wars for children.
Wow.
You know, where in a time where they don't have movies or music or anything, there's a guy putting on a play of Star Wars.
Are so different, but it covers so much ground, dude. I'm
right?
so. Can I just give it up for us?
Yes.
Because
The player way.
Because I'm going to be that guy that I'm going to hit it right down the middle and just give you those right down the middle standards that every fanboy loves. My number 4 is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2 as one film, as one entry. Deathly Hallows. Yes, I know.
But BK,
You laughing at my
how
sister.
could you put 2 movies at number 4?
Because it's one film, it's one
Let's go ahead and
book,
beat the
it's all
comment
one-
section
yeah,
right now.
Exactly. So fight me on it if you want to. But no, it's Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. It's all one film. You wouldn't be able to watch one without the other. If you jump right into the second half of it,
Like Love and
you'd be
Marriage.
completely lost. And to me, that's what makes it not a standalone film. Whereas some of the other films like Star Wars, you could watch Empire or something like that by itself, and you would be happy with all of that. There's nothing that happened in the previous film that particular film is standing on for you to enjoy it. And so that's what I love about Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows. I mean, they had Voldemort, of course, one of the best villains of all time. He didn't make our lists, but he almost made it. I'll tell you that.
We couldn't mention his name. We couldn't mention his name. We couldn't
Exactly.
put him on the list.
He who shall not be named. And the death count, dude. The death count in this film, they killed so many characters off. I always have to respect when they're willing to take risks and just kill characters off. So shout out to you guys.
That's 2 movies franchises that you're
They
mentioning.
killed Ares before he was Ares.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So that's all one entry as number 4. So number 3, Derreck.
Number 3, this also, if you notice, a recurring theme, a very nostalgic one, and this is the original one in this film. So when I say the title, please realize that I'm referring to the one that had Harry Hamlin, Laurence Olivier, and this one was Clash of the Titans.
Look at
The
you.
Back in the day,
Man, reaching
I remember when I
way
saw,
back.
And,
You
yes,
got to
and
go
this
back.
one,
Way back. Back in the
Yes.
time.
This one, there's a few other movies came out like this. There was Jason and the Argonauts. But this Clash of the Titans, I remember being like I thought it was such a spectacle as a kid just to see this type of and at the time this was leading animation. Stop motion photography was starting to become kind of a thing of the past, so they had a very good marrying of stop motion photography and some CGI, early CGI, because this is late 70s, early 80s. But I really enjoy this movie, and it's a great adventure movie. It's one of those, I always love a movie, an adventure fantasy movie where you're like, oh, they're just going to go down the street to their friend's house to get this thing. And, oh, by the way, no, we went on a 6-month journey into the mountain range to come back with this jewel. And that's just what it is. So another great movie, it's like I said, it's another kid-friendly movie. You got to enjoy it. Hey, Clash of the Titans, Dark Crystal, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I respect that. I respect that because my number 5 was almost Troy. So I almost
Mighty Achilles!
Yeah.
Silenced by a slave girl.
Dude, that stance that Brad Pitt takes is so strong.
Boom! Oh,
When he comes up like this,
boom! Yes, and you knew, and Eric Bana knew.
He knew it was
the
over.
The legend is real. Legend is
I've
real.
never seen a film where you knew the outcome of that fight, and everyone watching that fight knew what was happening. And like, there's a moment where you're like, at any time he's gonna kill this guy, and they're just stretching it out to make you feel bad. Nate, your number 3.
My number 3 was another Orlando Bloom classic, but Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. Watching this, I think 15 years ago now, 16 years ago almost.
I didn't expect you.
I had no expectations of what this movie was going to be about. I had never even been to Disneyland before, so I had no idea this was a ride.
It rocked your world.
But this, watching in the theater, it blew me away.
Oh, it blew you away. Gave your mind a little rub and tug, didn't it?
And I don't know if you guys remember this old, even older movie called like Cutthroat Island or something like that. But it killed pirates for like pop culture for years until this movie came out. And I mean, it's strong enough that Johnny Depp is still trying to survive on it.
Yep.
Sadly, I don't think any of the other 4 movies have reached the height of this first one for me. But yeah, it's just all around.
The second was pretty good, though.
The second one and third one are pretty good, but fourth and fifth are easily forgettable.
The first, you can only pop that cherry one time. Like it was like,
pop it. Yeah,
it did it. It did it. It did it good.
And a great soundtrack.
Absolutely. This is the tale of Captain Jack Sparrow. I'm telling you, dude. When you talk about a film. Nowadays we talk
every
about
time
films,
I hear that theme song, I'm ready to go on an adventure.
We talk about films that make you want to stick around to the end credits so you can see what's going to happen after the credits. This is a film that the music was so good you stayed in the theater when you heard that bump, 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 bump.
Yes.
Bump, 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 bump. Yes.
And those trumpets coming in and the French horns. Yes.
Yes, man. My number 3 is going to be Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. This film, in my opinion, of the 3 films, is the most superior because of one scene, the battle for Helm's Deep. That battle.
Cinematic fucking masterpiece.
I'm telling you, dude.
Best battle scene ever created on
Oh
film.
my God. The best, like, if you want to call it medieval battle scene, but like that type, I'm telling you, dude, like even, like, it's so good that Game of Thrones tried to make it happen with the Dragonfire battle. Couldn't hold a candle. Helm's Deep felt so helpless. Like, it was like, it's just, you just didn't know what was going to happen next. And you're just like, Jesus, like, just end it already. And then Gandalf
on the 5th day at dawn looked to the east,
and he was there, and he was there, and they came down, dude. And man, it was scrumtrelescent, that film. And on top of that, to end the film with, also the return of Gandalf happened in that same film, so you didn't know if he was going to make it there in time. And then you also had at the very end, where if you had never read the books before, which I had not, Gollum ends up taking up with the characters, and you know exactly what's going to happen in the next film. Like, you already know not to trust this guy, and you have to wait however long it took to watch that next film. You knew it, and you were like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And, that film was so good that third film, especially the very beginning of that film, it was kind of clunky. It was like, it's like you almost wish they had kind of left the other film in a different place to set up for the start of the next one. It was
I had read the books, and where, like, that whole spider thing where Sam thought Frodo was dead, like, that all happened in the Two Towers.
That's what I had heard. Yeah, that's what I had heard.
Yeah.
So it was, that was good for me. That's my number 3. Derreck, number 2, down to the wire.
Number 2.
My number 1 is probably going to make somebody fight. But go ahead.
My number 2. Now, of course, I have a theme of nostalgia, my own personal experiences when I first watched this movie, and how I appreciated the theme song was great. There's so many quotables from it. Everyone within a few years of my age has seen this movie, and if you hadn't, you lived under a cave with your fingers in your ears. And it was the never-ending story. I wanted to be trapped in an attic at school and not have anybody, my parents or principal, look for me while I'm reading this book that was really happening. And now I can't say that without saying this other part. It does not hold up in any way, shape, or form, because if you try to watch this again, it hurts the nostalgia in your heart.
Not even the theme song holds up.
That's the best thing of it. The never-ending story.
Exactly. But it ends.
Yes, it ends. The slow to ending story. Exactly. Like, that's where it should have went, and that's my only downfall. So for it to be my number 2, it's because of that initial impact, and it did have rewatchability as a youth. But longevity-wise, man. Now, I would be very amenable to a remake of this, because in this day and age, this would be a badass movie.
Now,
this would be an incredible, visually stunning movie.
It surprises me that this beat out Willow for that place.
And the only reason is because this spoke to me more as a child.
Gotcha.
A flying dragon, laser shooting beams, Arjax! Oh, and then Atreyu, and then that was just a business. Speeding snails, like, it's just crazy. Like, what a snail! Like, that just blew my mind as a kid. Right. Willow, I had to follow it was much more of an intellectual fantasy film as opposed to Never Ending Story. So,
yep. All right,
but yeah.
Nate, moving along, number 2.
My number 2 was another Orlando Bloom masterpiece. Mine is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
There you go.
As
okay.
much as I love
axe.
the other two, I had read these books before I saw this movie, and honestly, the books are not a fun read.
Yeah.
They're a hard read, and they're quite boring. This movie made that story fun to me, and I didn't care that it was 3 hours long. It completely immersed me into it. Mm-hmm. It finally made sense as to why they walk so fucking much in the books.
Yeah.
And yeah, so many quotable lines. You have my axe. I still to this day say it. I mean,
yeah, you do. That's why I had to say
and they were all merry. They were, on a little adventure, a lot of high fives going around.
Yep. And then that forest scene when the Uruk-hai come out, the fun ended in that series that moment.
Right
where
there.
Goddamn Alex Trevelyan, 006.
This
is real life. This is what's outside the Shire. This is what we shouldn't deal with.
Moment of silence for Sean Bean getting the shit pushed in. Woo!
As usual, always. I
would have gone all the way with you, brother. I'm telling you. That's what's up. Good one, Nate. Number 2.
Powerful.
My number 2 is the only film from this franchise that made it on my list, and it is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Number 2. This is the film that actually made Darth Vader a badass. The first one, no. This one, yes. When he throws the lightsaber and the lightsaber spins and comes back to him, what? I mean, you saw how helpless this guy was, and you wanted him to beat Darth Vader so bad, and then he does the great reveal. No, I am your father. It's like, what?
Shout out to resident podcast DJ for quoting that line accurately.
Exactly.
Because so many
Obi-Wan
people
never told you what happened to your father. He told me you killed him. No.
He told me you killed him.
I am your father. No! I'm telling you, dude. The inkling that Leia was his sister, I'm telling you, there was all of that was there. And then, of course, a black man in space running shit wild. I mean, that was awesome, too. Billy D.
Let no calories here.
No, my brother. Up? You got to get your own. I'm telling you, man. It was it.
I have altered the deal.
I've altered the deal.
This movie,
yes.
This movie spawned one of the greatest clips from Robot Chicken ever. I've altered the deal. This deal is getting worse by the minute.
You got a real sense for how slimy Darth Vader was. Just lie. I've altered the deal. Just straight up and just told him I changed the deal. Who cares? What you gonna do about it?
What were they gonna do about it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And then it got even better, and that film got even better when they added windows to the Cloud City with CGI. One of the rare things that Lucasfilm did well with CGI later down the line. So, really good film that to me holds up, and to me it's the best Star Wars film to date.
Nice. All right. Well,
now we're down to number 1. This is number 1.
Now my number one. My number 1, I had to quantify it in a discussion earlier.
All right.
So,
I think y'all gonna have to fight me on mine.
I had to quantify this.
I really hope ours is the same.
Oh, what if it's
I don't
not?
think
It's
not going to be.
This one because
it never is. Ours is never. I always think it's going to be, but it never is.
Well, mine definitely. I'll say this: my number one has to do with my number two. Pause. No bathroom talk here. With my number two from last week. Oh,
go ahead.
Do you recall?
Go ahead. Please tell me this is your number one.
The Matrix is my number one fantasy movie, and I don't care if you want to fight me on it and call it a sci-fi film. This is a fantasy film. We're going to skip you
for a second because BK's is also The Matrix, the original.
Yes!
Yes! All right, Nate. Fight us on it if you want to.
I don't know.
And Nate's number one is The Matrix.
No, it's not The Matrix.
No. It's Zathura. How dare you guys?
A Jean Favreau classic. That.
Escape from Witch Mountain starring
Stars
Dwayne
of
Johnson.
Pre-Twilight, Kristen Stewart.
Rounders. His Rounders.
No, actually, mine was jumping between. It was either going to be Rogue One because I think it is a better movie than Empire in terms of being a movie, but I picked Empire just for the
because
childhood.
The player.
Good job.
Yeah,
I had a feeling
memories.
Nate's was going to be up there with mine as well. I thought I had that a feeling as well. Yes, I agree that Rogue One is a standalone film better, but while it is a better standalone film, it is not a better film because there's a lot of problems with Rogue One. Mainly,
I think that. Well, I beg to differ because I think in terms of being a movie.
Yeah, but you don't care enough that the people died at the end. That was the biggest problem. If I cared more, I'd agree with you. I was like, they could die. If she dies, she dies.
Well, they all die.
Not like this, but not like this.
Dude, all right, so let's talk about Matrix, dude. All right, the reason why this qualifies as fantasy and not, and I laid the rules out so well at the very beginning, okay? It has to have a hard or soft magic system. Now, while this would, if you didn't have The Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, this would be a sci-fi film because as it pertains to the first film, it all is supposedly sci-fi. It's all supposed to be science fiction. But you find out in the second and third, and especially the third films, that he has power. It's not just an ability that he gains inside of the Matrix. He has a power that is given to him based on prophecy. And him being the one, being a coming-of-age tale, that also makes it a fantasy film. It is the first film, in my opinion, that merged sci-fi and fantasy together perfectly. And it's also the reason why it crumbled in the second and third films, because you had this sci-fi sensibility and then it transitions to fantasy at the end. But because they don't explain the magic system at all and how his power works, it crumbles completely. And so you don't really, it's the reason why there's so many questions about what actually happened and how does he get into the Matrix. And so all of the questions, and it's actually a cautionary tale in how to properly tell a fantasy story. I would have put Lord of the Rings higher on the list, but their magic system is all over the place. Their magic system is a wizard came and fixed it all.
He's just a wizard.
He's just a wizard. From
no one trained him?
Exactly. He's just a race of wizards. He didn't learn it. He's a race. He was, and then it's like, but I don't understand. He's created by Celestials.
Molded by it.
Exactly.
Born into
exactly.
it.
Just go with it. There's only 6 wizards in the world, and only 2 are still living. It's like what?
Why?
Exactly. But why? But the Matrix. I agree with you, brother. That Matrix.
The only way the Matrix would not be would be fully sci-fi is if Warner Brothers hadn't have distorted the Wachowski brothers' actual original vision of humans being computing powers, which made so much sense because we don't generate that much power as a battery.
Yes,
we would have been servers. Actually,
that's
been
exactly
servers.
Right.
But in '99, that was too far advanced for the idea of even server farms. Right now, that's general jargon. Right now, everybody knows or has a general idea what a server farm is. Yeah. Back in '99, if the Matrix had have came out in 2003, just 2003, the original Matrix, it would have been it would have
Fully
been
sci-fi.
even higher than it was, but it was just too far. Very similar to Gattaca. Gattaca is a great film, but it's just too far. It's just too far.
It is.
It just stretched too much. People weren't ready for it. People weren't ready, and people still weren't ready for it.
And if you ever want to ask yourself, is Matrix a fantasy film? All you got to do is watch Equilibrium. Equilibrium is a sci-fi version of
Christian Bale and Taye Diggs.
Yes.
Woo!
If you
That's
watch
a great
Equilibrium, that is what The Matrix would have been like if it was strictly a sci-fi film. But Equilibrium's good. That's a good film. It's not fantasy, but it's good. So anyway, there you go. Those are our top 5. Guys, if y'all could text me those top 5 lists when you send your audio streams, that would help me out.
I'll put them in the
some
email.
Graphics that we can put up on the Playerway Podcast at Playerway Podcast Instagram page, so that people can argue to the death about Matrix not being a true fantasy film, but it is. And it makes me so happy that my brother and I got the same exact number 1.
And even better, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and you know how I like to do these arguments. I always go straight to the max. Superman versus Hulk. All right, well, Superman can destroy the planet, and then what the Hulk's going to do, you know? So on The Matrix, if you're going to tell me it's not a fantasy and it's science fiction, can you dodge bullets? Can you dodge bullets in real life? There's no scientific anything anywhere that can say that your human ability could dodge bullets.
It's really the prophecy part is what makes it a fantasy film.
And then that even lends to it even more. Going along with that, the prophecy aspect, the belief system aspect, they have the whole concept of God going on. Morpheus is very biblical, and there's biblical references.
The
all
Messiah, the blind Messiah.
Yes,
piece.
even so, down to the license plate, Ezekiel, and an agent will come.
Yep.
Like they couldn't have gone that route without it having to be in a fantasy realm. It just couldn't have. As much as it is a science fiction film, I can't take that away from you. It is, but it's a fantasy film even more so.
It's the bleeding.
If you're going to dig down to the foundation, they fantasized about this. They didn't come across. They're like, oh, they had to think, what if we were in a computer system? That's the fantasy.
So
right there.
Here's the question: when we do the best top 5 sci-fi films of all time next week, does this disqualify The Matrix from being a sci-fi contender?
It sure does not disqualify.
There you go.
I'll argue against myself because the science fiction of putting our consciousness into a computer system is very doable. Black Mirror. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Argue me.
Exactly. And I would dare
so
say
next
that
week
the
is
only
best
film
sci-fi.
that does qualify for it being sci-fi is the first Matrix film.
We're all about pre-qualify.
Oh, and then the other thing that makes it fantasy is they do talk about vampires and werewolves and ghosts in the second one.
Oh yes.
So it goes.
Those stories you've heard about this are actually
So it's sci-fi. It's sci-fi, but it's also fantasy there. So there you go.
So next week's sci-fi top 5.
We just gave you the top 5. 5 time.
The Player Way.
There you go. All right, you said 5 times, 3 times exactly. Man, that was awesome.
That was great.
Anybody got numbers on Black Panther and where it is right now?
Yeah, if you give me
it's like 900 million worldwide.
Yes, so almost a billion.
900. Almost a billion.
I thought it would have broke
a
billion. I thought it would broke a billion.
It was still number 1 in the weekend again.
Yeah,
again.
Oh no!
Wait, Death Wish wasn't number 1?
You asshole! You asshole, dude. He's never gonna let me live that one down.
I can't wait for the top 5 action movies. Death Wish starring Bruce Willis, directed by Eli Roth.
I'm gonna tell you what. This is what we're gonna do.
That's a recipe for success right there.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
You got a top tier director, a top tier lead actor.
Right.
Call it in the air. Heads or tails?
Tails.
Heads or tails?
Tails.
It's heads. Tails. It's heads. It's gonna be sci-fi next week. I was gonna make it action next week, so it will be sci-fi next week and then action the week after that. So it'll give you time to actually.
So next week sci-fi. With the Twin Towers being in Atlanta.
Now, yes. Okay, now here we go with sci-fi. Now, I know we just said what we said about sci-fi. Now, Matrix is like one of the only sci-fi fantasy films that can qualify to be sci-fi. In order for it to be truly sci-fi, there cannot be an ounce of magic in it unless it's more of like, I'll give you one exception to that, like Star Trek, Q being involved in it. They kind of explain what Q is in the series. So that's
the interdimensional being.
Yeah, Q is not magic. Q is just, it's how his race works. So, and they have not been able to quantify what he is. So it doesn't mean that he's magic. It's just they don't understand how his abilities work. So much in the same that most people don't understand how a black hole works. Interstellar, #. So, exactly.
Man.
Good. Underrated, underrated sci-fi film right there, that is. And so many things to argue about in that film, too. But anyway.
Boy. Yes.
Anyway.
Water is wet. Water isn't wet.
Bruh. Anyway. So again, like, while Matrix may be able to make it onto that list because in the first Matrix film, there's not an ounce of magic in that film, except for maybe the prophecy, but the prophecy we don't know until later. As a standalone film, it does work as a sci-fi contender. But if you got a bunch of magic, like Star Wars would not qualify as a sci-fi film.
Star Wars is fantasy all the way.
I mean, down to the fact that even there's sound, there's gravity in space where there is no gravity in space. There's a vacuum that is sometimes there, sometimes exactly. So there you go. That's what makes it a pure sci-fi film. So looking forward to what you guys got to say about that. I got a feeling I know that one franchise will make it on at least on one of our lists. But anyway, anything else for the good of the order? Oh, and I do have to give an honorable mention because I did not mention this on our list. Chronicles of Riddick is an honorable mention for one of the best fantasy films of all time. Chronicles of Riddick is a really good fantasy film. The reason why it fell apart, however,
none of us.
What?
None of us. I was just saying, none of us mentioned that one, but
honorable mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
But it's an honorable mention for sure. I got to remember that because that was something that Ian Townsend and I were talking about because it kind of fell apart because they didn't explain the fact that the Furian race. You know, there's this idea that he got the eyes with a pack of mint cools that he gave to some guy that gave him the eyes, but the Furian race actually has that ocular jutsu as part of their race. Like that's actually part of his blood. So, and there's, the reason that's that.
So would you say Pitch Black would be more sci-fi?
Yes,
versus
100%. Now you get what I'm.
Okay.
You smell what I'm putting down. It's just you picking down what I'm putting down, picking up what I'm putting down on.
I have to ask you guys. We didn't even give them honorable mentions, so I'm just going to bring it up right now. Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, Silver Chair, Prince Caspian.
Nah.
Like book series, yes. But movies, no. Is that
in my
is
opinion?
That why?
In my opinion,
did anyone ever watch those movies?
Yes, I did watch those.
Isn't there a reason why they never finished them?
Exactly. I will say. Well, first of all, the book series, the only really good book series are Prince Caspian and Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. The rest of them are like meh, in my opinion. And on top of that, the best version of Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, in my opinion, was the PBS version that came out in late 80s, early 90s. Go ahead, Derek.
Obviously.
Give me that respect. Give me that respect. You know what I'm talking about.
Definitely, boy. You talking about Channel 13 on Sunday nights?
Yes, that's exactly.
Right before the British comedy?
That was the version. In my opinion, it was more subtle. It had less CGI, but it did a lot more for me, in my opinion. So, no, they tried hard to bring that series back, but
Nah, man.
Nah, B.
They got to like 3 movies, right? That's it.
Yeah, they got to the third film. Yeah, but
Not
anything. Oh yeah. So did you get to look up those official numbers on Black Panther?
It's at 899 million. So it's at it's 900 billion pretty much.
In only 4 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks.
Yeah, this came out February 16th. So we are looking at let's see, we've had 1, 2. This Friday will be the 3rd solid week of it actually being out. That's nuts. It'll be at 1 billion by the time probably this Friday. And that domestic's at 501, man. This is crazy, man. It jumped. It just, I mean, it's obviously, of course, the top movie of 2018. Like that's a given. But I mean, it's that I'm looking forward to see the numbers of this versus Infinity War. I feel that Infinity War should beat it, but I don't like. This is crazy. Like, I feel like these numbers that Black Panther has are what Infinity War would have had. Like, I feel like Infinity War would be at 900 million by this time of it being out. So for it being a true, in essence, almost a standalone film, and it's not a standalone, but for it just being a Black Panther film, not like the other MCU movies having almost the whole cast of the Avengers in, this is incredible. These are incredible numbers.
And speaking of incredible numbers, it makes you wonder how Disney's A Wrinkle in Time is going to do. It makes you wonder, because this is, now we're getting to where Disney is going to be their own worst enemy, because Black Panther has destroyed every other film's chances of doing anywhere near that well, although I did hear that Red Sparrow actually did a pretty good job in theaters despite it being coming out when it came out, just showing that Jennifer Lawrence still has a lot of fans out there. She's almost bulletproof when it comes to that. I mean, for her to make the money that they made, what did they do? Did anybody got numbers on that over there?
For Red Sparrow, 16 million. 1-6.
And what did they
3
spend?
million ahead of Death Wish.
And what did they?
3 million ahead of Death Wish.
You asshole. And what did you? And what did they?
No, I just want to say to put that in perspective.
Yes,
it only did 3 million better than Death Wish.
But what did they spend on the film?
Oh, cost of Red Sparrow.
Probably
I think we'll have
much.
some good gibberish between the two. Budget.
I'd like to see the budget of Death Wish. $20,000. You want to see what you can do with $10 million?
That means they're gonna make a second one. Is what that means.
Red Sparrow budget had a little over 110. It says.
110. Wow, man, that's. But see, you got
much more than I thought.
But you got it. Yeah, but you got to. That's way more than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like 50. But no, it's interesting. How did they spend that? Well, I guess Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know. But no, it just helps you understand that like none of these film franchises, none of these, no one who does bad after Black Panther no one's gonna hold it against anybody. They're gonna write it off and say, well, Black Panther though. So
it gives it a production budget of 69, but
there you go.
I feel maybe they might have ballooned up to 110, including like salaries on the other one.
Yeah, and marketing. They probably had to market the hell out of this thing just to get people to see it.
I'm telling you, if you ask 10 people, I bet freaking just one or two people would know that this movie even exists right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So there you go.
But Black Panther, dude, they even have the 17-day total on this thing versus Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and Star Wars at 517, and this is at 501.
Whew.
This is beating Avengers: Age of Ultron like dominantly.
Oh yeah,
Age of Ultron was at 372 in 17 days. Man, that's
insane.
That's just phenomenal.
It
man.
is.
I can't.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know Black Panther's gonna have like it's just gonna all of a sudden have like this crazy drop eventually. But speaking of Disney, but like we were talking about A Wrinkle in Time coming up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys thinking A Wrinkle in Time is gonna do? I mean, it is a part of that whole D23 rollout. It's part of Disney's rollout. They're pushing it really hard. Oprah's been out there in the limelight a lot more than usual, trying to do interviews and things here. What do you guys think is going to happen with A Wrinkle in Time?
I think it'll have a respectable number 2 opening.
Yeah.
Any numbers on that?
Oh, he's trying to go ahead and.
It's a gentleman's bet, man. Let's go ahead and give him an exclusive.
Black Panther will drop down to probably 30. I'll give A Wrinkle in Time 18. Exclusive. I'll give it 18.
18? Nate?
I mean, I wouldn't even I'm not going to lie. I don't give a fuck about The Wrinkle in Time. I'll go 17, 16. Let's go 16.
All right.
There's a lot.
What'd you say,
there's
Derek?
a lot of.
You said 18?
Yeah, I said 18.
I'll say 15. Yeah.
Just in case.
I think.
Is anybody even going to watch it?
No,
you said you're gonna check out Death Wish. You're gonna check out Wrinkle in Time too.
Nate, I'll submit this to you. Spring break is on, and parents will.
Yeah, you're
Look,
right about
there
that.
this is a book that came out a long time ago. I don't know if kids these days read it or want to read it.
But they'll watch. But this one, a new version of current.
Hey,
kids,
hey,
maybe.
here's the other thing.
None of the trailers look that good to me.
Hey,
I mean,
look, Oprah might pull a Tyler
you never
Perry,
know.
bro.
Who knows?
They got a black girl lead in the film, and they got Oprah in this film, and then they got Mindy Kaling is also in there too. They might pull a Black Panther with this one, dude. They might. I'm gonna actually change mine. I'm changing mine. I'm gonna change mine to 20 mil.
Hold on. Before you change yours, don't forget. Go with your gut on this one. What was your gut on this
15.
one? You know what I'm saying?
15.
This one could be a Cara Delevingne one as well. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Man.
Oh, I can't wait. My top for sci-fi right there.
What? Hey, Derek, do you have their budget handy?
On Wrinkle?
Yeah.
Give me all right, give me some filler.
That looks like they spent a lot.
Yeah, no
of
problem.
money.
You're good. You know, by the way, Jason X does qualify as a sci-fi film. If you want to do that, if you want to go that way, if you want to bring that out next week, Jason X, he's gonna be on my honorable mention for sure.
I'm gonna go Jupiter Ascending, Cloud Atlas.
Yeah, dude.
Valerian, and the City of 1,000 Planets.
You got to do John Carter. Definitely got to do John Carter.
Oh wow, definitely a throwback.
Although that's technically a fantasy though.
They aren't giving the budget on box office, so that's interesting.
That is interesting. Let's see if we can. Wrinkle in Time movie budget
103. A true 103.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty low considering like the graphic, the what all they're putting into this. But
guys, I'm gonna actually go crazy. I'm gonna say 30 million, bro. They're gonna do 30.
All right, hold on. Before you give me 30 million, will this beat Black Panther in the theater this weekend?
Okay, what did you say? What do you think?
That's probably the better thing.
Yeah. Damn.
If you're gonna go to 30, tell me if it's gonna beat Black Panther.
I'm gonna say 20. I'm gonna
Black
go with my
Panther
20. This is my final answer. I'm not changing no more. 20. I'm saying 20. 20. It's gonna do 20. It's got Oprah in it, bro. It's got Oprah in it. My grandmama at least go see it. It's gonna bring some of that.
Go up. Nate, do you want to leave yours at 15 or 16?
Yeah, I have nothing invested in this. I don't care. 15.
Then I'll change mine to 21. There you go. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna leave it 18. Okay. I'm gonna leave it 18.
Right, so 20, 15, and 18. Sounds
18.
Good. All right, let's do it. Closest without going over. That's
nice.
What's going on. I love that the gentleman's bet is more of a gentleman's bet as opposed to it being a true bet, because I've made a series out of losing the gentleman's bet, and it is called The Captain's Challenge. Playway Podcast presents Captain's Challenge. Comes out every Friday on YouTube. You can find us at Playerway Podcast on Instagram, like you can find all of our content. Mondays is Motivation Mondays. Tuesdays is when the Playway Podcast comes out. Wednesdays, Weekly Games Wednesdays. Thursday is when the Box Office Hustle's coming out, but Derek doesn't know about that yet. He's going to find out about it when he comes here in town. Friday is when is Flame on Fridays with the Captain's Challenge, and the weekends we rested amen. So that's what's going down, helping you curate your media weekly.
The Player Way.
Silently, exactly. Sorry, I had the Wrinkle in Time budget up over here. So yeah, so there you go. That's what's up, y'all. Anything else for the good of the order?
I came across a little jewel in Netflix, but I haven't finished it yet. But it started off freaking crazy.
I'm glad you said this. Go ahead.
It's called The Void, and it's some movie, and it's wild so far. I didn't get to finish it, not because of the movie itself, but I'm definitely going to finish that and have a quick hitter on that.
I'm so glad you mentioned Netflix one more time, because we got into some weird children molestation, drugging conversation, and it blocked my whole thought process of the Blitzcast on Netflix. It was going to come out, but two things that did come out on Netflix recently was Chris Rock's Tambourine and
Marlon
Wayans, his stand-up routine as well.
Woke, kind of. What's it, like woker?
Woke, yeah.
Woke-ish.
There you go, woke-ish. And so there's been some interesting... There's been some interesting conversation online, because apparently a lot of people believe that Chris Rock is in the top 5 best comedians of all time. And to that,
I saw this comment that you had.
Bitch, what?
How is Chris Rock in the top 5? It makes me want to say that next week I would move, for the good of the order, for us to postpone sci-fi and action a week out, and then go ahead and put comedy next week so that we can have a timely conversation about what makes a great comedian and have the top 5 comedians of all time on our next episode.
Or that. Well, I was gonna submit that could be one of our deep dives next week. Even we could even watch one. We could something like that. I don't know. We could work if
we could do a deep dive.
I'm open
Speaking
for
of
whatever.
deep dive, I love that transition. Deep dive this week. I think of the three of us, I'm the only person that watched Atlanta's premiere on FX, critically acclaimed Donald Glover series that did win all kinds of awards this past year. Not only that, breaking news exclusive. Donald Glover announced his tour. He's actually going back out on the road for music. This dude can do no wrong. He's Lando. He's got his new series.
Do you think he did the tour to coincide with the coming up assault?
You know he did.
It's almost like that would be a conspiracy theory.
Oh, you mean a conspiracy theory?
Conspiracy. But what if it's a conspiracy? Conspiracy.
Nate, what do you think of the conspiracy?
I think the shit goes on too fucking long. That's what I think.
Goes on way too fucking long.
No, but
long conspiracy style.
But what do y'all?
BK.
Exactly. But yeah, do y'all agree with? I'm about to your wife big style. But yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all want to go ahead and make next episode about comedy? Do we want to do top 5 comedy films of all time? Or do we do top 5 comedians?
I'd rather do comedy films than comedians.
I can do that
because I could easily. I mean,
yeah, I agree. And you're gonna get.
Plus, my comedians change. There's so many of them. They change.
I agree, and as they should change. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Like BK, like your statement about Chris Rock, went top 5, bigger and blacker. Cool. Back then, yeah, totally top 5.
Like 2002,
like he was,
yeah. Aquaman going drown in a bathtub.
I still would, but I would never say that Chris Rock ever broke the top 5 ever. I mean, well, I'll say this before Dave Chappelle.
I think back
I'd say
in
before
2000 and
I'd say
like
before
2000.
Chappelle. Before Chappelle showed up, I would say Chris Rock was on the way to getting there, but he wasn't there yet. I mean, if you ever seen Bruce, if you're gonna put Chris Rock in the top 5, you gotta put Bruce ahead of him. Then
no man,
Bruce
all right,
funny.
This is great.
Mardi Gras.
All right,
this is Comedy Central's BET Comedy Central's Mardi Gras. I'm telling you, bro.
I will never forget one time back in high school, and I'll wake up to you laughing your ass off at Lavelle, blah, kicking a clown in the airplane bathroom.
I have never laughed that hard at Chris Rock ever. Not at any moment in time. He was all right. He gave you that little half smile. Oh, that nigga stupid. But you ain't never had no face tore down. Jaw
BK said, "I don't like Chris Rock, and I don't need a black Guilford Gottfried."
Well, it's exactly. It's not, and that's the thing. And that's the thing. The other thing I don't like.
Chris Rock,
and this other thing I don't like. Black people will put him in the top 5 because they fucking bigots, man. Come on, man. Like, have you heard Lenny Bruce before? Have you seen Jerry Seinfeld? I mean, come on, bro.
Lenny Bruce is also not afraid.
Come on, bro. And look. Even though dude stole jokes, how can you mess with the super finger, man? I mean, DC, dude. I mean, at one point in time, I would put DC.
This is
Dane
good.
Cook
This is
on
good.
the same platform as Chris Rock, and he would whoop Chris Rock's ass. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude.
Man,
I'm telling you, dude.
Even
Monique, dude.
sports
I put
opinion.
Monique over. I put hilariously would put Monique over Chris Rock.
Due to our contract with Netflix, I am not hereby obligated to agree to anything to do with Monique at all.
Exactly.
She can go chase Professor Overby.
Oh, all right. That settles it. Next week is the comedy special. We're gonna do that.
All right.
We're gonna do that
The Player Way.
But until then, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between.
So,
with all
wait,
due
are we
respect.
doing comedy film?
I said with all due respect. Yes, we're gonna do top 5 comedy films next week, and we're also gonna lead off the discussion with we won't give our top 5 comedians, but what makes a great comedian, and we'll talk a little bit about these Netflix specials that have come out. We'll talk a little bit about the Monique situation. We'll talk a little bit about comedy as a whole. So it'll be a good comedy bang bang, if you will, on the next episode.
Nice.
But until then, it's on once again, Patron once again. I have been your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you understand how to curate your life and media
The Player Way.
Shout out to Mr. Darren Marla, who connected with me on Instagram, following us now, and he is en route with us, and he said he might even come on an episode of the show with us to talk about his scrumptious voice of the podcast, otherwise known as
The Player Way.
Exactly. But until then, I never do this thing alone. My illustrious big bad Beetleborgs that I do this with. Nate.
Yeah, that's me. I was gonna keep up with the Ricketts, but I went on to. I decided to just live my life and
Get outside.
honestly, if you got Ricketts, then you fucked up. You know, it's not my life. Life's too short.
They got you on Valtrex.
Go outside.
They got you on Valtrex and orange juice or something these days. Is that what's going on? Exactly.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you say Valtrex?
I said Valtrex. And that voice, that laughter, that cackly cackle you hear
Better put
is
a rest on
of
that.
our resident funny man. When no one knows
now
where
the
he
pressure's
comes
on.
from, who thinks life makes you a little stranger. Our urban cowboy, corrupting the system himself.
That is
Derreck.
me. And I am doing my best to provide you with champagne wishes and caviar dreams.
And
I'm Derek Lewis, and you're listening to podcasts of the rich and famous.
The Player Way.
That's exactly right. We're going to wrap that up just like that. Nate, send us home.
Peace out, Rabbit.
We're going to wrap that up just
Oh,
like
and check out Death Wish Me.
Again, corrupting the system.
you guys, I hate you, but I love you so much. There we go. And we're going to wrap that up just like that.
Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Peterson, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson.
And I'm Darren Marlar, the majestic voice of the Player Way podcast.
Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it
The Player Way.
See you next week.